Hello and welcome back to Pay Down Debt Solutions. I'm Jen, and on this channel, we teach velocity banking solutions for your banking needs. And today we're going to focus on credit cards and when you have zero cash flow. So these right here, people think are this horrible, evil thing, right? They think these credit cards are awful, that they get themselves in debt with them, and they want to cut their credit cards up and they want to shove them aside and never use them again. Well, guess what, you guys? That is not necessarily true. You only think that because you've been taught to think that. This right here is a secret debt weapon. It's a debt destroyer. And I am going to show you how today, how to use your credit card debt to help pay for itself and to pay down your debt faster. So I have a scenario here that I'm going to work out for you, and I'm going to show you how this baby right here can take care of your debt. And if you use it right, and learn the velocity banking strategies, you can then take care of almost all of your debt using credit cards, believe it. All right, so let me put that aside and let's get into today how your credit card has a debt eliminating feature. So even if you are sitting at zero cash flow, or maybe you're even a little bit negative, your credit cards can help you get out of debt when you employ them by putting all of your income into them and running all of your expenses out. And don't freak out on me because I'm going to show you exactly how that works, okay? So the secret is the ability to revolve that credit card. So this credit card right here, okay, so I can take it and I can charge my expenses on it, right? So I can charge almost any expense out there, just about, can be charged on a credit card, except for your mortgage can't be charged. Most of your rents out there can't be charged. You can't pay for other credit cards on a credit card, nor can you pay for a loan on a credit card. Okay, Jen, so how are they useful then, right? That's what you're going to ask me. How are they useful if they can't take care of those other debts that I have out there? That how can I pay for them with a credit card? Well, there are certain things that we can do. We all know how to use a balance transfer, right? Okay, so maybe not all of you, but a lot of you do. So balance transfer is a wonderful feature of a credit card as well, where you can move other credit card balances over onto a card that has available limit, okay? So if you have the ability to do that, then you can consolidate two cards into one and run a velocity banking strategy, which again, I'm going to show you how to do that. So the secret again is that ability to revolve it, because if you can put all of your income into that card and you can pay for almost all of your expenses out of that card, you can actually drop your debt faster, all right, which is about to be revealed here. So we can use all of our income in a way, okay, in a way that allows you to keep an organized accounting of expenses, all right? So one other great feature about these credit cards are you guys can see your itemized expenditures, right? So what you've spent your money on. So it is a great way to also help you budget and keep track of what's going on week over week over week, right? So if there are 4 weeks in a month, and you're looking at your credit card religiously, maybe every Sunday, no pun intended, right? But maybe every Sunday you'll look at that religiously and then look and see where your debts are, whether you're on track or not on track to keep your expenses in line. Okay, so that's a great feature of a credit card. Can you do that through a checking account? Yeah, you can. But I'm just saying that the credit card, putting money on a credit card, it doesn't just evaporate and you lose track of it. There are ways to keep track of it, okay? And you go into the credit card and you look at the itemized expenses, right? And then you can keep track of that. Use our budget sheet, you guys. That's available to you. Just email us. I'll give you a budget sheet. Those are awesome. Okay. And two, they work for us to pay down debt faster by putting your income in and your expenses out. So let's get into that. Let me explain that for you and show you exactly what I mean. So here is my example today. Okay, this is an example where we have zero cash flow. And I will write that down. So we have zero cash flow, right? Cash flow is nothing. And in this example, so this might be for somebody out there who has maybe a massive credit card that they're trying to pay down and they just don't have any extra money to do that with, okay? So what could they do? I want to show you exactly how you can do that. So if you have an income of $3,600 and your expenses match that, right? Your expenses are pretty much $3,600 and your cash flow then equals zero. If you have a rent payment for $1,100, now remember the $1,100 can't be put on a credit card. We know we can't do that. So we have a car payment of $280. Well, a car payment obviously is a loan, so we cannot pay that through a credit card either, right? And then we have, let's say, we're going to pick on Discover today. Let's say this is a Discover card, and this credit card is at $8,500 balance. And let's just say it's at its limit, okay? Let's say it's at its limit and it's $8,500. And our payment is $276. That's an interest and 1% payment, okay? And it's at 27% interest. If they were to pay this card back traditionally, the way they're currently doing things, right? They went through the traditional system. It's going to take 4 years and 5 months to get that paid off. And it's going to cost them $61.33 in interest. That's $6,133 in interest, okay? So that's a lot of interest for $8,500. You guys, that's almost the same amount in interest. It's ridiculous and it's ludicrous. And this is why we need to learn how to pay these down faster. Because when you pay them down faster and when you put your income in, you will pay them with less interest owed. So let me show you. Okay, so when we are working with credit cards, now Velocity Banking employs and deploys using lines of credit such as home equity lines, personal lines of credit, credit cards, business lines of credit. We use lines of credit to work down debt. And when you're using a credit card, things are run just a hair different with credit cards because there are certain things, again, like I said, you have to hold out of your card. You can't use them through the card. You can't run those expenses through the card, such as, again, your rent payment, your car payment, and again, this loan payment, right? Or credit card payment you couldn't put on a credit card. So you have to hold that amount of money back into your checking account. You have to leave it in your checking account per se. And you can't use that to expend on your card, right? So that also means that, that you have to hold back that income, right? Because you have to pay those through the credit card. So how then would you figure out what amount of money you can put, what income amount you can put on your credit card, right, to then expend off of it? And why would you want to do that? Well, let's look at this, okay? So we know that our available income then, and it's available to us to put against that credit card. The available income is, we start with $3,600, okay? So $3,600 is our income, but we have to subtract off the $1,100 for rent. We have to subtract off the $280 for the car, and we have to subtract off the $276 payment for Discover, which would equal $1,944, right? Wrong, because when you do Velocity Banking, we actually get back this payment. So this payment here, let's not do that. I don't want to mix colors here. This payment comes back to us, okay? And the reason that payment comes back, and this is what confuses a lot of people. Whoops, sorry guys. Ooh, okay. Just kidding. So the reason that comes back is because we have overpaid our credit card now. We have paid more than that payment, which means our payment is quote unquote satisfied. When we satisfy that payment, we don't owe it because the income going onto the card is then resetting that card, okay? So when we run Velocity Banking strategies, there's a special thing that we do, okay? And when we put that income in, let me show you a little pictorial here. Let's look at this. Let's say you start at $8,500, okay? So $8,500 you start with. Then you're going to drop the card to $600 or $6,000, right? Let's say you put in income and it drops to $6,000. But then you expense on the card and the card goes back up to, let's say, $8,000, all right? Because we're running our expenses on the card, all right? And then at the end of that month, you then have to put your income in again, right? And it comes back down here. Let's say it's $570, okay? Or 5,700. So now it's 5,700, okay? And then you're going to expense on it again, right? You're going to go back up here and then it's going to come down to, let's say, 7,800, all right? So you can see how you're dropping that balance month over month when you put your income in and you're running your expenses out. Well, this payment here, plus whatever extra you have in interest that you're not paying, because when you drop it down here, your interest is lower. So you owe less of an interest payment, which means that this plus a little bit extra from the interest you would have owed at the $8,500 level is less. And that credit card company has to keep refiguring it every time you do that. So somewhere in the middle is an average, okay? And that average is what we're going to calculate it on. So when you put your income in, okay, you put your income in, you're dropping that balance immediately. And yes, you have expenses, and yes, it's going to come back up, but each time the credit card company is refiguring it, and they're also recalculating this payment, okay? And so that's why you can work down your debt this way, because this full payment becomes less. Every month it's less. And so that means that you're putting more and more and more onto that card every month, so long as you keep to your budget, right? So long as you do that, that's how it works. Now, let's go back to what we have available. So our available income, all right, we take our $3,600, we subtract off the $1,100 for rent, the $280 for my car payment. We don't have to subtract off the $276, which means our available income is $2,220. So that is what we're going to be putting on our credit card. Okay, and I'll show you that in just a second. Now, our chargeable expenses, we start again, because we have no cash flow, we start again at $3,600. We subtract off our rent payment, okay? We subtract off our rent payment. We subtract off our $280 for the car payment. We subtract off the $276 for the Discover payment, which means that we are at $1,944 for our chargeable expenses, okay? So those are the expenses, which I'll show you in a minute, that we will put on our credit card and charge through the month, okay? Now, this $276 has to be there, because if we take it off of here, right, we can't take it off of here and here. We can't do that. They have to check and balance each other. Now, I don't care. You could have left this at $1,944 and subtracted it here, right? And then have reduced your expenses that way. So either way it works. Now, inside of the calculations, it'll fluctuate by a few dollars and cents. But whatever mentally works for you, you guys are going to be close again, because we're always averaging this, so that you can do it either way. But just make sure if you do it here, you don't do it here. If you do it here, you don't do it here. Make sense? Okay. So I like to do it this way. I like to let you guys keep your income, because you don't then have to put it anywhere else, because you're already putting it on that debt destroyer, right? Okay. So let me make sure I explain what happens with our living expenses. So we know that these are our debt payments, right? So our debt payments are here, the 11, the 280, the 7, the 276. Now, our living expenses, in this case, match our chargeable expenses, okay? So if we were taking, and again, this is a hypothetical, but if we take this and look at this, we've got 700, 300, 634. So groceries, 7, gas, 300, utilities, 634. Our phone is 110. Our insurance is 200. And that, hopefully, if I did it right, it works out to 1944, because in this case, it does. Now, could you have an expense that you can't run through a credit card? You can, and sometimes you do. Sometimes insurances you can't run through a credit card. They want that check, okay? If that's the case, then let's say it's 200 for this insurance, then you would have to then subtract it from here, right? So you'd have to subtract it from your chargeable expenses. So you'd have to subtract it here, and then you would also have to subtract it from here. If you had an expense over here that you had to then hold out into your checking and run it through your checking account, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Now, let's look at what this looks like. So let's take a look at, I'm going to start with my card here. So here's my card, okay? And so this is what it looks like mathematically. So when you're doing this, you guys, and it is not difficult, okay? Learn something new. Learn how to run. This is basic math. Basic math. It's very simple. Keep watching videos if this doesn't make sense, but it will shortly, okay? So we've got $8,500 as our expense, as our balance on our card. Now, we just said that our available income is $2,220. So I am going to throw all of my income onto that credit card. All of it. It's going to go on that credit card. And so it drops my balance immediately to $6,280. So see how I was saying we dropped our balance? In this case, it was $6,000. So $6,280, we drop it to $6,280. Then we have our expenses, right? Our charges that come back onto the card. Our charges are coming back onto that card, all right? And we have to calculate our interest. Well, how in the world do we calculate our interest? Now, I touched upon it here where I said that the interest is resetting every time because we're changing the balance, right? So here's how we calculate our interest. I am going to take my handy dandy trusty calculator that, I don't know, Dan's had since, the 70s, I guess. I have no idea. And we are going to then take our high balance, which is $8,500. Okay, so $8,500. And we are going to add our low balance, the $6,280. Okay, and the reason I'm adding that is because we're getting ready to take an average here. Okay, so $14,780. Then I'm going to divide that by 2. Again, our average, right? Dividing that by 2 gives us our average, which is $73.90. So now I have told you that our interest rate is 27%, right? So if our interest rate is 27%, I'm going to multiply the $73.90 by 0.27, or you can do 27%, however you want to. I do it old school. Okay, so that's going to give me $19.95. All right, so $19.95 is a year's worth of interest. So if this card were to sit there at $8,500 for a year, it's going to cost me $1,995 in interest for 1 year. Okay. Now we know that we're doing velocity banking, so it's going to continue to drop, right, month over month. So now I'm going to then divide that by 12 to give me, right, to give me 166. All right, so that is my starting interest. And if I run this strategy right, that is going to be my highest interest I'm ever going to pay on this card if I'm running a strategy that continues to work down my debt. Now, could you have a bad month? You could. You might have more chargeable expenses if you have a bad month. But in this case, we are hoping that we don't. And even if we do, you guys, it doesn't derail you. It doesn't derail the plan that badly, right? Okay. So now we add all of this together, right? We add our 166 plus our expenses plus what we dropped our balance to. That gives us 83.90 month one. So now I have to do some checks, right? My checks are, am I lower or higher than where I started? And because I'm lower than where I started, my strategy is working, and it's going to work, and I'm going to then be able to do this. So then let's go into month two. So what does month two look like? Well, month two, we're going to subtract off our 2,220, right? And if we do that, it's going to give us, okay, let's see, I have it written down here, so let me just cheat for a second. All right, so that'll give us, let's see, 62.80. No, not 62.80. It'll give us 61.70. Okay, now I'm going to erase this and start with the 61.70 so you guys can see this again. Okay, so this is my little calculation of how it works, right? So we'll get rid of that. We're going to start off with our 61.70 up here. So 61.70. Now remember, this is starting month two. And so now my expenses have to come in, right? If I can find my blue marker. All right, so now I'm going to put my expenses in here. Expenses haven't changed, right? So we know that they're 1944. Okay, so I'm adding in 1944. And now I have to calculate my interest again. Okay, so I'm going to have to calculate my interest. So how am I going to do that? Well, remember, oops. Man, I got the dropsies today, apparently. All right, so we're going to calculate our interest. I'm going to show you that again because I don't want you to get confused as to what numbers to use. All right. So this is starting our next month. We're using our high balance, which is the 83.90, right? So 83.90, we're going to add that to 61.70. That's going to equal 14,560. Okay. And then I'm going to multiply that, or I'm sorry, then I'm going to divide that by two to get our average, the 72.80. Okay. 72.80, I'm then going to multiply by the 0.27, which gives us 1965, okay? And then I'm going to divide that by 12 because we only need 1 month. So it's 163, okay? So 163 is our next interest. So 163. And as you can see, it's coming up, right? So it's coming down. So my interest is coming down each month. And as I continue to do this, it's going to be more and more impactful on that card, okay? So then month two, where do we end up? We end up at, let's see, 82.77. I think so. Is that right? 82.77. Yep. I think, let's see. Let's just double check this. 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so 82.77. So as you can see, sorry, brain fart there. So as you can see, I started the month, right, at 83.90. I dropped it to the 61.70. Then my expenses came in, then my interest came in, and I end up at 82.77. Is 82.77 less than the 83.90? Well, it is. So my strategy is working, right? I'm going in the right direction. So what does this end up looking like? That's the question, right? What does this end up looking like? Well, in this case, for them, it took 38 months to finish, okay, or will take 38 months to finish for my hypothetical person here. Okay. Oh, it's M. Let's see. Oh my gosh, I can't spell today. All right, so I usually put months, and then I was going to spell it out, so I guess I'll spell it out. All right, so 38 months is what it took, right? So 38 months, and let me get the dollar amount for you. Okay, so it took 38 months and $39.73 is what they spent in interest. Okay, so what is that? Just a little over 3 years, right? So 36 months is 3 years. So 3 years and 2 months it took, right? 3 years and 2 months versus 4 years and 5 months and $61.33. So you've saved yourself $2,000 worth of interest, right? Of interest debt that you would have spent. And trust me, you're feeling that every month. You don't see it, but you're feeling it, and you will continue to feel it. But when you run your banking in that traditional system, in that traditional banking strategy, you guys are stuck paying the bank more interest than they deserve. Why should they get this extra interest? Why should they? You guys keep money in your pocket, okay? They're already making money off of you. Let them make some money. That's fine. You borrowed from them, but at the end of the day, be smarter, run faster, right? Run faster than them and save yourself money. So this is how we do velocity banking strategies. Now, if this, okay, let's say the same situation, and I'm just going to throw this out there for you because I did run one. So let's say our expenses are not 3,600, but let's say they're 3,400. Okay, so let's say our expenses are 3,400. So we have 200 then. If we have 200 in cash flow and we run the same strategy, you guys, it's going to be even faster. So this is what that looks like. Okay. So if we do that, it's going to take 17 months to finish. Okay, so it would be 17 months. Remember, because all of this is going to recalculate. So all you would do in this case is do 3,400 here, 3,400 here, run the same expenses out here, right? We just have to figure out if that's the case, right? Because that means your living expenses are higher, or lower. So if it's 3,400, you're just going to subtract it from here. Okay. So let's say we ran that, what would that look like? Well, at the same interest rate, same everything, except your expenses are less, it takes 17 months. And in interest, it's $17.52. So think about that, you guys. $17.52 versus, the $61.33. So this is very simple. All you have to do is use your noggin, use it in a different way. This right here is not your enemy. It's not. Trust me, it's not your enemy. It can be your best friend if you know how to run it and you know how to use it. So you guys, try velocity banking. I implore you, try it, test it out, watch videos, learn from us. If you need a little extra help, you can reach us you can just give us an email here, info@paydowndebtsolutions.com. We do coaching strategies for people. But more than that, you guys, we have so many videos you can learn from. You can figure this out. It is not difficult. It can be overwhelming at first. I get that. But so is everything that's new. Have an awesome day, you guys. And Dan and I are going on vacation, so you might not see us for a couple days, but we will be back with a vengeance. Have a great day.